Hey. Good day, everyone. A big welcome to Tech Talks by Her, the New York edition, brought to you by Young Women in Code. Welcome to this session, and we're about to start. So, this will be a online seminar, and my name is Josephino Desani, and I'll be your moderator for this evening. But before we introduce our two esteemed speakers, please share your excitement in the comment section using emojis and words to express your enthusiasm. Also, when you're sharing it with friends and families, don't forget to use our event hashtags such as hashtag TTBY New York and hashtag Tech Talks by Her New York to share that you're attending the event on different social media platforms. Now, let's make some noise and let the world know about this amazing gathering in New York with women in tech. So I'm going to introduce the following two ladies, wonderful ladies, who will be sharing their stories and insights with us tonight. Our first speaker is Lydia De La Cruz. She's a developer advocate, educator, and community builder, passionate about breaking down technical barriers and creating spaces where underrepresented voices in tech can thrive. A first generation Afro Latina from New York City, Lydia transitioned from education to software engineering and has since worked with startups and global communities to empower developers through storytelling, mentorship, and hands on learning. She is the founder of Perdosa Coding, a platform where she shares her journey into tech and supports others navigating their own. Whether she's speaking on stages, mentoring newcomers, or even building inclusive programs, Lydia leads with heart, grit, and a commitment to global impact. Welcome, Lydia. Thank you for joining us today. Now, next we have Ume Habiba. Ume is a passionate software engineer and TED speaker dedicated to empowering women in tech and promoting diversity in the industry. With a background in computer science, Ume shares insights on coding, interview preparation, and career development, inspiring others to pursue their dreams in technology. Ume's journey began with Code with Classy, which ignited a commitment to mentorship and community support. Through engaging content, Ume continues to break barriers and advocate for representation in STEM fields. Welcome, Ume. So glad to have you joining us today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So thank you so much to both of our lovely speakers for joining us. We can't wait to hear about your journey and insights in the world. Now, remember, everyone, I need to see you sharing those emojis and sharing your excitements and thoughts using our event hashtags. Let everyone know that right now, Tech Talks by Her is happening. Well, without further ado, it's an honor to introduce our first speaker. Her journey through the tech landscape is nothing short of awe-inspiring, a testament to her dedication and achievements in the industry. Now, please give a very, very warm welcome to Lydia De La Cruz as she steps up to share her remarkable journey with us. Lydia, over to you. Okay, sorry guys, we're having a bit of technical issues, so we'll take a 3-minute recess while we readjust everything, and we'll get back to you soon. Hello? I can't hear you. Okay. Please be patient. We're still trying to solve this issue. Okay. So while we figure that out, well, we're going to move on to our next speaker, Ume Habiba, who will be sharing her tech journey. Thank you, Lydia, for well, we'll talk about Lydia later, but now please let's hear from another remarkable woman who has made her mark in the tech industry. And take it away, Ume.
Thank you. Thanks, Josephine. Hi, everyone. My name is Ume, and I'm a recent graduate from the University of Maryland, College Park, with a degree in information sciences and a minor in computer science. When I first entered college, I initially went in as a computer science major, and I ended up leaving and ended up pursuing information science because of a lot of things that I had witnessed and also experienced as a computer science major, such as the gatekeeping culture, the cutthroat culture, and just the unwillingness to help each other out and also just feel like a community. And community is something that's super important to me. So I started coding in middle school when my older brother, who had an unconventional path into tech, encouraged me to try out Code Academy. And I was always a math loving girl. I thought I was going to be a mathematician when I grew up. And when I discovered coding, I figured out that there was a way for me to combine math with my creative side, and I could build things with numbers. And to me that was really cool because I wasn't just, you know, thinking about what two numbers could add up to or multiply to and multiply and equal something. Instead, I was doing things with those calculations, and to me that was so remarkable and so interesting. So I knew that that was something I definitely wanted to explore further to see if that was something that I could pursue as a career. And when I got to high school, I ended up taking a couple of computer science classes. I took AP Computer Science A and AP Computer Science Principles. And through those courses, I 100% found that, you know, coding and being a software engineer was something that I would want to do. But it wasn't until I really began to really like just digest and take in the environment around me that I realized there weren't a lot of people that looked like me. And that realization came pretty early on in my tech journey, which I'm so grateful for. And my AP Computer Science A teacher was actually a woman who also encouraged me to make these, you know, visualizations and also just take note of what was going on around me because she knew I was a change maker. So that ultimately encouraged me to decide to start a Girls Who Code chapter at my school. It was the first ever Girls Who Code chapter. And then I ended up joining Code with Classie. And at Code with Classie, I've been involved with them for going on about 6 years now. I started out as a scholar doing their web development camps, and then I ended up teaching coding camps for them for a couple of years. I think I taught over 300 scholars, which is crazy. And then I ended up interning for them for a couple years, first on the curriculum and training team where I helped write computer science curriculum, and then ultimately as a social media intern, which encouraged me and motivated me to start my own social media page. And then in college, I also served as a teaching assistant for introductory computer science classes, specifically introductory because it was a goal of mine to help underrepresented people find their passions in tech in a very, chill and laid back environment, an environment where people around you weren't going to be mean and gatekeep and not want to help you. And that was ultimately my goal. And that brings us to today. I am a software engineer at Microsoft, and I've interned as a software engineer across various industries like big tech, luxury, beauty, and finance. And yeah, I'm excited to have a chat with Josephine today and learn more about Lydia.
That was lovely. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and insights. And it's quite wonderful that you managed to create such a welcoming space just for people like yourself. So it's very inspiring. And thank you for sharing that. Now we're going to go back and try and talk to Lydia. Lydia, welcome back.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Lovely.
Okay, good, good. All right, let's try this again. Um, so my name is Lydia, and born and raised in New York City. As the introduction stated, I have a very unconventional way I got into tech. I pivoted into tech back in 2019 after working in education for about 6 years. I've always worked with students, and I've always enjoyed teaching others, and I actually still currently do. Um, but back in 2019, I wasn't sure where I wanted to go and what path. There was one thing though for sure is that I was managing one of our IT interns, and she was only there maybe once or twice a week. But every time something broke, I had to wait for her to come so she can fix it. And at one point, I was like, I don't want you to fix it. I just want you to show me so I can just start doing these things, and I don't have to wait for you. I think one thing led to the other. I started to just ask her questions about her career. She was pivoting into cybersecurity. And as a fellow Latina, she just said that there was a need for more of us. It was a very much male-dominated field, that she just advocated for more presence. And I just got into the internet, of course, because when you're curious, where else do you go to the internet, right? You Google search things. Now you just chat GPT things. But one thing led to the other, and I just started Googling coding because that's what I saw her doing. And I started to see software engineering, and I started to just kind of dabble around with free platforms. As Uma stated earlier, I also use Code Academy. And then from there, I was like, you know what? Let me dabble into this field and see what happens. What's the worst that can happen? And I enrolled into a coding boot camp. And through that coding boot camp, I was able to land my first technical role back in 2021. So I am from an untraditional career path, right? There's different routes that folks take. Sometimes it's just studying master computer science, either for undergrad or master's, or people like myself who go through a coding boot camp, or folks who just self-study and end up landing in the workforce. Honestly, the choice is yours, what works for you. During my time, though, I decided to take it to the internet, of course. I was like, well, no one else is talking about this. There has to be someone else doing this. I can't be the only person. But I couldn't find someone talking about it. So I decided to create my own brand called Poderosa Coding. And I just wanted to share the struggles, the wins, the ins and outs of what it is to go through a coding bootcamp, with hope that if someone one day were to decide to take this route, they could see themselves through it. They can feel empowered, and they can really get a sense of belonging. I also share a lot of resources on my page as well, And that's something that I really wanted because I have come across resources and I still do to this day. And I wanted to be able to share it in a large platform where I can also pay it forward to other people. Fast forward where I'm at currently now, I'm currently pursuing developer relations. I currently work with different startups, building out their communities, their user groups, being able to engage with developers, working with different startup products that are aligned in the AI space. So sort of still using my technical skills, but now I'm a more, I want to say, people forward facing face. If you think of like content creators and influencers, that's sometimes how I relate developer relations folks are. But yeah, that's pretty much me. Really excited to be here and learn from the audience and also just continue this conversation.
Thank you so much, Lydia, for sharing that inspiring journey. Really appreciate it. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but it was a pleasure to hear you speak. Now, it's been so grounding to hear each of your stories. And now we're going to go into the panel session that is where we'll have the chance to go a little deeper and have more insights from the two of you. But before we start, we will be having an audience Q&A after the panel session. So if there's anything you're curious about, or if there's anything particular you want to ask the speakers, please do drop it in the comments and we'll address them during the Q&A session. We're excited to hear your thoughts and engage throughout the session. So let's start with you, Lydia. Okay, question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. When you think back on your tech journey so far, what's a moment that tested you, but in hindsight helped you define your impact?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I went through a coding bootcamp, which is a 4-month intensive training where you have some sort of foundational understanding of what coding is, but you haven't built out an application yet. And when I say application, think of like an actual product, like launching a website. And I think during that time, it was very much of a learning curve. I hit a lot of learning bumps. I felt very inadequate. I felt as if maybe I cannot learn the software engineering tech role, or I can't even learn how to code. So there were a lot of moments where I told myself, maybe this really isn't for me. But later on, I leaned on those challenges and realized that the day-to-day life of a software engineer or anyone technical at that is constant problem solving. It's ambiguity, it's the unknown. And I think the actual skills and training is just kind of figuring it out, right? Just figure things out, problem solving and not stopping until you find a solution. And I think afterwards, after I leaned in to that kind of understanding, I realized that I'm not the only one. There's even folks who are currently employed and have been doing this for years who struggle. And then afterwards, in hindsight, I mean, it led me to where I'm currently at, and it led me to pursuing the role and just pivoting into software engineering.
Okay, that was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, what about you, Ume? How would you say your tech journey was so far, and what was a moment that tested you in hindsight?
Yeah, so my tech journey has been quite the time. Like I said, I have been in this, I guess, world for quite some time now, and I've been coding for quite some time. But it wasn't until I entered the industry as an intern that I really got to learn about what really goes on and what stereotypes were true, which ones weren't, and how I really fit into the industry. And I would say one of the moments that really tested me was during one of the summers when I was interning for this company. this pretty big company, and I would go into the office, and I'm the kind of person, and I'm sure a lot of women can also relate, where like we like to get done up, and some of us like to wake up especially early and really just, look our best, whether it's through our outfits, putting a full face of makeup on. And that was the way that I liked to express myself and how I liked to go into the office. And although I had heard a lot about how microaggressions are prominent and common in the industry, I didn't like, we all think that would never happen to me, right? Like, we hear about it, but we're like, that wouldn't happen in my particular situation, but it did. And facing constant microaggressions from mostly males who were majorities in this, not only in this company, but also in this industry, it was an eye opener for me, because I realized that even though I was facing these microaggressions at times in front of big groups of people, no one was saying anything. It was the norm in a way. And I'm the kind of person where I'm like, if something isn't right, why is it the norm? Why isn't this changing? Why isn't anyone speaking up? Or why isn't anyone moving towards a better future, or like a better direction for how this work culture and place could go? And so when I started posting on social media, besides, really providing that support and those resources for young girls and young minorities, it was also really important for me to display that, hey, you can embrace and be your most feminine self in a male dominated field, and that's okay. And the reason I really wanted to incorporate that into my content and into, my online persona was not only because that's a really big part of who I am, but also because if other girls, if other people see that, hey, I do see representation for the kind of person that I am, then I'm going to feel more comfortable being that person in the workplace. And for me, for a really long time during that, internship, I was uncomfortable going into the office. I was uncomfortable dressing up. But then if I didn't dress up, if I didn't do my makeup, that was also uncomfortable for me. So I was glad that I was kind of, in a way, being that stepping stone and being that person that, a lot of people could look to, just to feel a little bit more confident about themselves in the workplace.
Thank you so much, May, for sharing that with us. That was very inspiring and very, very relatable as a fellow person of color in the tech space. Now, we're going to switch back to Lydia. Lydia, I have this question for you. As someone, okay. Hi, Lydia. Okay.
Hello.
Hi. As someone who transitioned from education to software engineering, what transferable skills from teaching have helped you succeed and stand out in tech?
Yeah, I think for me, one of the impressive things that I got from working in education is that there's different ways that people learn, right? And getting an understanding that everyone learns in a different pace. Working in education also allows me to always constantly be the teacher or the student role, right? And we're all students of this world because we're constantly learning. But there's also moments where you step into a teacher role. And that teacher role could be simply as explaining to someone a concept or explaining to someone some sort of like topic. Whenever there's a moment where you're explaining something, that's kind of like a teacher role. So I took that experience to constantly pivot between roles, between, teacher and student roles. So there'd be times where I'd be learning about something, and then there'd be times where I'd be teaching someone about something. And I think there's this common uh, quote that says, like, when you teach something, you learn twice. And I love that because from every time that I'm able to teach someone, I either engage in dialogue and conversation when they share a new perspective or they share their opinions or thoughts, and that rewires the way that I think about things. So those are two skills that I want to definitely say were transferable in terms of one, everyone learns differently, and two, constantly pivoting back and forth between either a teacher or a student.
Advice and those skills you mentioned is definitely something we should all pick up on. Now, going back to Ume, you've built inclusive curriculums and worked across big tech, beauty, and finance. Now, what's one lesson from each of those industries that everyone should learn when designing tech that actually serves people?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And for all three of them, I think the biggest thing you have to understand is you should always be open minded and always be willing to collaborate. And the reason those things are so important is because you could have at a table of software engineers, designers, etc., and they're all so diverse. They come from all different backgrounds, yet half of them are just so stuck on their ideas and how they imagine the product should go. But if instead they're all super open-minded and they're willing to have conversations, have those difficult conversations, be curious, ask questions, they are the ones who are going to ultimately succeed the most. Asking questions is one of those things that is crucial, especially in a corporate environment. And that's something that I've learned is like more recently. Like, I knew questions were important, but I didn't really understand how much of an impact that they could have, because it shows that you're willing to learn. And learning is one of those things, no matter if you're in a startup environment, a corporate environment, that you should always be working towards. And, if you are at a table now that, is filled with people that all come from different backgrounds, but everyone is willing to chime in, to ask each other questions, to maybe play devil's advocate in a respectful way, that's how you're going to build the technologies that are going to help people. And if you are working with folks that, have the same mission and also want to serve people, not just, a certain demographic of people, but people, that's how you're going to build a technology that not only serves everyone, but that ultimately helps people and changes and shapes lives.
You're absolutely right. We find in tech so much that people work in a bubble, and actually speaking to users and whether they actually going to use the stuff that's being built is something that's sometimes lost on engineers. But I totally agree with the insights that you just shared. Now, Lydia, Cardosa Coding centers both storytelling and support. How have you seen personal narrative influence access, learning, and empowerment in developer communities?
Yeah, I think it's really important to create your own personal brand. What I have noticed, not only for myself, but other folks in the space who have created their own personal brand, is that it offers opportunities of job opportunities in general. Companies and anyone else who sees what you're doing on these online spaces are very much intrigued about your presence in the online community space and want to be a part of that, and want to support you. So I see it as a great potential for opportunities, collaboration, speaking engagements, also mentorship, all around. Creating your own personal brand just opens multiple doors of opportunity. In the advocacy space, I think it really helps bring awareness to what it is to be in this space, as Uma shared. It is a very much space where you do go through a lot of feelings, a lot of hardships, a lot of times you don't really see yourself and you probably the only person in the room or in a certain meeting. Um, And it just goes to show that there just needs to be a more presence of us and more people advocating and talking about it, such as myself and Uma and many other folks. In terms of the, I'm sorry, what was the third one? It was advocacy, trade-offs, and there was a third one.
Narrative influence access, learning, and empowerment in developer industry.
Oh, yes. I think the empowerment comes of just being folks able to see themselves, being able to see me and resonate with me and say, well, she was able to do it, then I can do it. Right? I think that's the empowerment part. If she can, then I can. Because I was on the other side of the screen. I was a person doing coffee chats. I was a person seeking mentorship. I was a person asking questions before I did the whole entire pivot. So now that I'm on the other side, it is just I I always enjoy paying it forward. Back to what Uma said, I'm not in the gatekeeping culture, very much always paying it forward and always sharing tips and resources, answering people's questions.
Yeah. Thank you, Lydia. That kind of perseverance is very empowering and very inspiring. I mean, there's something in like every African parent and maybe other cultures can also relate to when they tell you that that person that's doing these great things, they don't have two heads. So I think that's something that we can all take away from what you just said. Now, Ume, as a first generation immigrant and top intern recognized by Way Up, how do you stay rooted in your story while showing up in high performance, high visibility spaces? Ume?
Yes. Okay, there I am. That's a great question. And I think one of the things that really keeps me rooted is remembering where I came from. And I know that that sounds a little cheesy, but like similar to Lydia, I truly am for the people, and especially people like me who didn't really have the resources or the privileges growing up that a lot of other of like a lot of my peers maybe have had. And one of the things that really keeps me going is, yes, I'm advancing my own career, and yes, I, have all these aspirations and goals for my life, but I also simultaneously want to help the people that are currently in the position that I once used to be. And, although I might say, like, hey, I didn't maybe have the financial privileges, I didn't have the like educational private school privileges, I did have the privilege of having like a mom who really like encouraged me to do really well in school and get a good education and go to college. A lot of people don't have that. And recognizing that and realizing that some of your privileges are what other people would kill to have is so like it keeps me grounded, and it like brings me back to reality and lets me know, hey, there is a way you can help people, and it's not just whether it is posting videos online or if it's like speaking for events like this. It's moving the needle, like even if it's at like a centimeter at a time, it's still making some sort of change and like broadening people's and young people's knowledge gap, and like filling that knowledge gap, which is the most important thing. Because one thing that I wish I would have had when I was younger was was someone that could kind of lead me into the college process, or like the SAT prep process, or like just kind of figuring out, hey, what do I want to do? When I was in high school, something that I thought I had to do was I had to know what I wanted to do, and like if that didn't work, then I would be a failure. And I quickly realized when college came that, hey, no one knows what they want to do. Everyone is confused. Everyone's living life for the first time. And one of the best parts about life is you are figuring things out as you go. Now, should you probably have goals and like be working towards something? Yes. But throughout that journey, if you realize, hey, I kind of dipped my toes into XYZ and I realized that I like it more than what I'm going towards right now, then that is a great time to pivot. And that's something that I didn't really know as a first gen like student that I could do, and that's something that was available to me, because I'm sure a lot of us, a lot of you guys, if you are first gen, can relate. Like, if you set your mind to something and you are working towards something, it's like it's that or nothing. And like success is the only thing that you kind of see, and failure isn't something that is necessarily accepted or like you think is accepted. And so for me, it's been really important to, one, embrace the failures, but also help out my community, whether it's on a grand scale, not a grand scale, within my community, my hometown, now wherever I live, which is New York City, in whatever capacity that can be. It's always my goal to help out in any way that I'm able to. And like Lydia was saying, if that's like not gatekeeping, then that's what I'm going to do. Because I think we often, like, a lot of people who do give in to those gatekeeping cultures, they think like, hey, there aren't going to be enough opportunities for me if I'm sharing all of this knowledge with other people. But instead, what you should think is there are going to be even more opportunities if more people have this knowledge that you have, and they can build all of these great things, and you all could make great strides and great strides together. So yeah, that's pretty much how I stay rooted as a first gen student. I think you're muted.
Oh, thank you so much for that realistic perspective. It was very, again, very relatable. I love what you and Lydia are sharing in terms of your presence in the space and the opportunities you're creating. But let's go back to Lydia. Lydia, you built spaces as well for underrepresented voices to thrive. What does true inclusion in tech look like to you beyond just hiring more diverse people?
I think intentionally building pipelines of success, right? Because I think what happens is that once companies intentionally create pipelines of accessibility to include folks, sure, once you do hire them, it's also the retention part, making sure they stay. Right? I think that's the important part as well, is that once you are recruiting these folks and you're being inclusive, how are you supporting them internally? How are you advocating for those folks internally to move into leadership position? What does internal mobility look like? What does mentorship look like internally? And what are we doing to ensure that these retention rates are high in terms of folks and keeping them, right? So I think that to me is true inclusivity. I think you're muted, Josephine.
Oh my word.
It's
I
it's a
love that.
typical Zoom
Yeah,
thing. You're
yeah,
muted.
yeah. It's cool though. I mean, they get it. That was lovely. Thank you so much for sharing, Lydia. Okay, going back to Ume. The next question I have for you is: you bridge fashion, technology, and activism. What challenges have you faced navigating these spaces, especially since it's not traditionally designed for someone like you? How have you redefined it?
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. And one of the biggest ways that I've kind of combined all of my passions into one is through tech education. And as I mentioned, I have a pretty well-versed tech ed background. Like I said, I taught coding camps for Code with Cossi for in 2020 and 2021. And then I also worked on curriculum for Code with Cossi. So I helped rewrite their mobile application tracks curriculum. And then in college, I also was a TA for 3 different computer science classes where I guest lectured. I created my own projects, created my own curriculum. And through that, I found that a lot of the curriculums that we use and a lot of the curriculums that are in place in the classroom, specifically at universities, aren't really catered towards people like me. They're catered towards people that already exist and have those opportunities and that are represented. And so, one of the ways, and the biggest way that I decided I was going to bridge my love for fashion and beauty and technology was through creating videos and resources that are combined that are using fashion analogies, but teaching people how to code. And as I'm sure a lot of you guys probably know, leak code is unfortunately the standard way that technical interviews are like structured, and that those are the kind of questions that a lot of hiring managers and recruiters will ask you during those big tech interviews. And there's no other way for preparing for those besides literally just leak coding and completing those coding problems. But what I found through talking to a lot of young girls was they don't know, like, if they don't know how to solve a problem, they don't know how to really understand how to solve the problem because the explanations are all catered towards men. And that sparked something within me, and I was like, wait, how easy would it be to, instead of creating content that maybe just breaks down coding problems, but relates it back to clothes or makeup products or something along those lines. And what I have found by posting those videos on LinkedIn and Instagram and TikTok is so many girls have reached out to me telling me, hey, I finally understand this. Like, I did not understand this before, but because it's relating back to something that I'm so familiar with, I now can say that I can complete this coding problem. If I was presented with this coding problem for an interview, I would ace it now. And as you know, I would not have aced it before. And I think that was so important for me, and really great to hear, because that's not some, you would think that that is something that maybe has already been done, or like people have thought about doing it, but no one's done it. And that was something that I was like, wait, I'm gonna continue doing this because I'm able to use, I actually use AI to help me and really come up with concepts for a lot of those videos because there are so many leak code problems. There are only so many analogies that I can come up with myself. So, using AI to really maximize that content is so important and so cool for me to see the results of that, and getting those testimonials and DMs and those messages telling me, hey, I got this offer because of your videos, or like, I aced this interview because I finally understood how to complete this problem. So yeah, that's pretty much right now how I'm deciding to bridge fashion, technology, education, and activism into one. I think you're muted.
I keep doing this. I don't know. Anyways, I love that. I love that insights, especially with lead code and redefining it. Especially as a beginner in tech, going into those interview questions can be a bit daunting. So it is nice that more people like you out there are coming up with analogies that can make it easier to understand. So, Lydia, I have a final question for you. As a person who went from being an educator to an engineer and an advocate, what are some of the most meaningful lessons about leadership using your voice in rooms where you were once underestimated?
That there are true allies out there. And I think I'm very fortunate enough to have been led by a very phenomenal true ally at the organization that I used to work for. Um, and that person really set the standard high in terms of what leadership looks like to me, and also allyship. I was very much supported, very much seen and advocated for, and I'm very much mentored along the way. Really great, exceptional mentorship and leadership that this person exhibited. And, going into it, it was my first technical role. I came with all the different things you hear online, all these skepticism, all this folks' opinions and warnings of what I may experience or not. Um, so I was like kind of ready for battle, right? I was like, well, I'm gonna have to guard up and get ready of all these possible scenarios that I may come across or interfere with. And actually, it was complete opposite. I was met with empathetic leader, a true ally. In all the sense that is, and was met with a lot of mentorship and support during my journey there. So really excited to have experienced that. I know that not many folks do experience that during their own journey, but I'm grateful that I met someone that actually has set the bar and expectations.
Thank you for sharing that, Lydia. That's very inspiring as well. I think that, and it's very important to be in such a space where you can thrive. Uh, let's Okay. The final question to Ume that I have for you. You've spoken on global stages and created viral impact. What advice do you have for young women building personal brands in tech without losing their authenticity?
I want to really emphasize that last part of your question, authenticity. If you feel like you are losing your authenticity while building your personal brand, you're not building your personal brand. Your personal brand requires authenticity in order for it to have the kind of impact you want it to have. And I always say, and I said this in my TED Talk as well, is your personal brand is so much more than what you put out into the world, what you put out on LinkedIn or Instagram or social media platforms. Treat people, it's how you converse with people, it's the way that you interact with people in person. It's so much more than posts that you put online. It's everything about you. And so if you feel like you're losing that authenticity portion of yourself, stop and think about the fact that, hey, this is no longer my personal brand. This is something that I actually am not. And I think the one way I have been able to get all of the opportunities that have ultimately felt right for me, like the most perfect opportunities for me, is because I wasn't trying to be someone that I'm not. Like, for example, like I've heard so many times, Ume, you are such a talkative person. And like when you go into these spaces, maybe don't be as high energy or like as bubbly. And I'm like, but then I wouldn't be being myself. And like, yes, there, is a limit to like how energetic I should be, but like I'm not going to be completely silent or be someone that ultimately I feel like I'm not, because that wouldn't be contributing to my own personal brand or like contributing to the kind of story that I want to tell. And the story that I want to tell really is rooted in not only who I am and how I treat people, but everything that I care about, the causes that I care about. And that is really what has been leading me in the right direction. And I don't know what that direction is, but I know for a fact that like whatever direction that I am headed in my career, in my professional life, or even in my personal life, I know that it is the direction that's meant for me. I know that sounds really cheesy, but it's the direction that's meant for me because I know I'm being exactly who I am. I am being the most authentic version of myself. So whether that's, networking with people, going out to conferences, or like going to networking events, I'm not talking to people to get to get something out of them. I'm talking to certain select number of people because they're just really cool to me and I want to learn from them. And that level of authenticity can truly never be replaced. People will always know if you are talking to them because you want something from them versus if you're talking to them because you just want to get to know them. And so because I've kind of followed in those footsteps, I feel like I've always just stayed true to myself, and it's all come together into creating this like idea of a personal brand for myself.
Okay, thank you so much, Ume, for sharing that. And we've now come to the end of our panel session. Now we're going to start with the audience Q&A. I hope you guys have been thinking of your questions while we were speaking. Thank you to all our speakers for sharing such valuable insights. Would now love to hear from you guys. If you could please drop your comments and I could get started. If not, if you guys still need some time to think, I do have one question for both of our speakers. Maybe that's something you'd like to comment on. Both of you mentioned using LeetCode a lot to practice for coding problems. We can practice coding problems and even going about making up analogies in order to understand them better. So I just want to hear your thoughts on this recent controversy regarding this LeetCode cheat app created by a college student, if you know about it, and just what your thoughts are on it. We can start with you, Lydia.
Oh, I think we all know, everyone knows that LeetCode is a very difficult, not platform, but just algorithms and system design is very difficult, right? And given the job market right now, unfortunately, we're in a place where there's a lot of applicants and not enough roles available, right? So given the student, I don't know the details of his background. Pretty sure it probably led him to create this application. Maybe he found himself in a desperate situation where he just needed to get employed some way, somehow. But I think LeetCode is a very difficult platform to study it, right? I think there are resources that help, and there's also community. Here in New York City, there's a lot of communities that you can join, where you can literally LeetCode with people in person or even virtually online. There's accountability groups as well. I know top of my head, Code and Coffee is a very common one. You can find them on LinkedIn. They're constantly having meetups here in New York City. There's pretty sure a lot of virtual online spaces that you can join and find like an accountability buddy, either through meetup.com, Eventbrite, or Luma. You can find support there. And then another platform that really helped me was Neat Code. It's a pretty cool app that kind of structurizes your learning process with LeetCode using LeetCode. And it kind of navigates you on this exploratory program where you can kind of transverse each topic and move forward. And I think I really enjoyed that. There's some videos also that visualize the learning concept as well. Yeah, I guess those are just my pretty much thoughts on that.
Okay, thank you. Ume, how about you?
Yeah, I would say the technical interview process, and due to apps like this, I think we can say is like broken and obviously needs a lot of work. And I don't blame those folks for developing an app like that, because it should just go to show a lot of these tech companies you need a new way to test a lot, I guess, your knowledge or your problem solving, because what you're doing right now isn't working or is no longer going to work based on how this industry, like what direction this industry is headed in, and also just based on what direction AI and technology is headed in. So I don't really blame them. I think I kind of ultimately expected something like that to come out. But, like Lydia said, there are so many resources out there that can truly help you understand a lot of these LeetCode problems. And the number one piece of advice that I can give is just pattern recognition, because a lot of these companies, a lot of the questions that they're going to be asking, you can recognize patterns from them. And if you know how to solve based on recognizing patterns, you're going to be fine. And I think it's also important to understand how you learn best, and whether that's through sites like NeetCode, which is a great site. You can use that, or you can use, there are a lot of AI platforms out there now. Like I have worked online with this platform called Final Round, and they're basically an online AI like interview kind of like helper. And so they'll give you like the top asked questions for your specific company, and you can live interview and you'll get live feedback. So there are resources like that out there available too, if you are, maybe not the most confident in your coding skills. But, like I said, I think I ultimately expected something like that app to come out. So it's no shocker, but, all we can do is, one, I guess, like urge for change in the tech industry in terms of like when it comes to interviewing, and changing the way that you interview, but also just figuring out what works for you and how you learn best.
Okay, thank you both for sharing that. I still don't see any questions from our audience. Guys, if you're still here, you can please drop an emoji in the chat. You can drop your questions or anything you're curious about knowing. We'd love to hear from you. We got a couple of more minutes left, and we're ready and waiting. Wow. Well, I have another question for you. So, what ways or what advice do you have to someone who is starting to build their personal brand? I don't know how it was for you when you started maybe posting on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram. Like what made you come out of that shell in terms of sharing things on such platforms? We can start with Lydia again.
I guess for me, it was just a desire to be able to see someone else doing the same thing that I was doing, and I didn't see that because that's what I so overall, I just became the person that I wish I could have had during my journey. Since I didn't find it, I just became that person. I became her. And I was like, well, what's the worst that can happen? I can fall really, really hard, and it can be a learning lesson, or I can succeed and just kind of bring folks along the way. Either way, I know that if there will be some good that will come out of this, either the pros or the cons. Um, and I just kind of started, and especially on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is just, you can share your journey, you can share an outcome of a leak code problem, you can try to find community on there. And if you are breaking into tech, LinkedIn, of course, is a professional platform where recruiters also can see insights on what it is that you're building, what it is that you're doing, get a sense of your personality, and etc. So what better way than put yourself out there that can lead to a job opportunity than doing that by building your personal brand?
Okay, thank you for that. That's really useful advice, and I hope all of us on this live now can implement that in our personal brand building. Ume, how about you? What are your thoughts on how to gain that confidence to start building your personal brand?
Yeah, really just echoing what Lydia said. I don't know if I have much to add, but when I started, I guess, like building my personal brand online, I was just posting about things that I was doing. And it wasn't even because I didn't see anyone else doing it necessarily. It was just because I was involved in things, even in my school community at Code with Clossy, and I just wanted an outlet to like post about, hey, this is what I did today, or like, this is what I did this past summer. And I think over time, I got, like I was able to gain a community that wanted to see that. And I didn't know when I initially started that like people were looking for people like me to relate to. And when I found that that audience kind of existed, it's like, wait, there are people out there that actually care about what I'm doing and care about the causes that I care about, and they want to see more of that. And because I kind of realized that, I think I just ended up posting more and more. But it really just takes that first, I guess, like push to post. And I think if you are able, like in today's day and age, having a personal brand online, I think is the bare minimum. You know, treating people well and being kind and being conversive and having good soft skills is definitely, I would say, equally as important. But you know, having that online personal brand, whether it's on LinkedIn or Instagram, probably preferably LinkedIn, is really what's going to help shape your future professional career.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for that insight. So we finally have a question from the audience. We can start with you, Lydia. It's socially acceptable to be a workaholic in this field. That's something I can definitely relate to as a robotics engineer. But how do you suggest we all find equilibrium?
I'm a very heavy user of my calendar. So just like at work, you book for meetings. I think you should just integrate and book time for yourself, right? Just time away from whatever your day to day is, and like clear out your calendar and intentionally book time for yourself, right? And you can make it fun, right? Sometimes I like put funny topics on my own calendar to block out time. It's like board meeting, but I'm not in a board. Fun time like things. I also have accountability friends where I book time with them and we meet at coffee shops and just kind of catch up and just do non-work related things. But you have to be intentional, just like you're working yourself and booking yourself for meetings at work, then book and find some time for yourself as well to do something fun that isn't work related, maybe like a hobby. Anywhere from like pottery, going on walks with friends or hiking, anything that kind of gets your mind off.
Okay, yeah, that's useful. The great use of the calendar there, actually. Ume, how about you? How do you suggest finding that equilibrium?
Yeah, I don't actually know if I'm the perfect person to answer this question because like I'm gonna be honest, I'm not the kind of person that has work-life balance. And but the thing I would say is there is always there you go through phases in life. You go through phases where certain things take priority during that phase in your life, and it's okay to dedicate more time towards that thing. And so that's kind of how I approach work, life, and all things in between. For example, during college, I went through multiple, I guess, like quarters or even semesters where at times I wouldn't see my friends for like 2 or 3 months. And I would really just focus on work and like my career stuff. But then I would have like 2 or 3 months where I would quite honestly go crazy and like go out all the time and have that college experience. And, you know, after I graduated in December, I'm starting work in a week now, and I told myself I worked, you know, so much during college. I worked 5 jobs during a semester, and I was like, I need a break. I need like a sabbatical. So I took 8 months to literally have no work. And yes, social media is kind of my work, so I always kind of had that on the back burner, like in the back of my mind. But I didn't have like a full-time like commitment. And that was great because I could do things that I truly wanted to do. I went weeks literally just bed rotting and I felt great about it because that was, I guess, like my priority at that time in my life. Now when work starts, work is going to be my priority for however long, and I'm really going to focus in on my work or my career and things like that. But do I think that that's going to last forever? Not at all. And because I know it's not going to last forever, I think that's how I'm kind of able to stay sane. But yeah, just the kind of person I am, I don't think I'm the kind of person to have work-life balance, at least right now.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure a lot of us can relate to that. Oh, we have another question from the audience on having an authentic personal brand. Okay, we can start with Lydia again. How do you prioritize when you have to choose between helping your target audience versus advancing yourself?
Um, how do I put it? I have to choose between helping your target or advancing yourself? I guess the way that I can answer this is sometimes you do feel like kind of creator burnout. I used to tend to post a lot and then I started to dwindle down because I needed to work on myself and upskill. And I
Mhm.
think I always come from if I don't pour into my own cup, then how can I pour into others, right? You can't pour from an empty place. So I always think about always, well, how do I prioritize myself so I can show up 100%, right? Because if I have my own, if I'm at 40 or 50%, let's just say, then how am I going to show up for someone else at 100%? I think those are the things that I think about. I'm pretty sure that folks, my target audience or supporters or followers or friends or whoever it is, would want me to be at 100%, right? And not show up at 40%, whatever that, whatever I need to do to get to that 100%, I'm pretty sure they'll support. If that means taking some sabbatical time from being presently online, then if that's what it is, then that's okay and that's acceptable. Because at the end of the day, we're humans, we're not robots, so we have to incorporate some time for ourselves.
Okay, that's very true. Thank you. Ume, how about you?
Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to add from what Lydia said. I echo everything she just said. I would say, like, for me, it has kind of been like one and the same. Like, it just kind of came naturally for me, like helping people, whether it was in my community or just like on a grander scale. I always found that lifting other people up lifts you up as equally, if not more. And it like was not something that I was like, I'm gonna lift people up because it's gonna help me move forward. But it's just something that was one and the same, something that I found was happening simultaneously as I was, helping my community or like helping my target audience. So I don't know, like, honestly, I don't know if I've ever had to prioritize one or the other, but I will say there have been a lot of instances where, I've had to turn people down because I think Lydia was just mentioning you have to have like time for yourself and also time for your own life and your own career and aspirations. And yes, you can help people, but there are 7 billion people around this world. There's no way you're going to be able to help every single person. And so I think it's important to ask yourself, like, what is, I get not even like a number, but like, what is your threshold? What's your limit? And knowing that is going to be really helpful, especially when it comes to burnout and burning out from advancing your like activism and really working towards helping your target audience or community, because I've found that a lot of the times I would give up so much of my time, not like for free, which is, I'm so happy to do that, but then I'm like, I have so much time, I could give more time, and then I find myself getting burnt out. It's like, whoa, maybe I should take a step back. And like, people are going to be helped either way. So even if you help one person compared to 1,000, that's still one person's life changed. And I think oftentimes we get lost in the numbers and we're like, whoa, 100 is better than one. But at the same time, one is still great and it's still wonderful. And I think being grounded in that is going to really help when it comes to things like burning out.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Ume. And thank you, Lydia, for your thoughts as well. So we are coming to the end of our session. Thank you to our incredible speakers, Lydia and Ume. Thank you for sharing your inspiring journeys and invaluable insights with us today. Your contributions have truly enriched our event and empowered our audience. Let's take a moment to appreciate them. They have generously shared their wisdom and experience with us, inspiring all of us to reach new heights in our own tech journey. You can drop a comment below showing some love, please. You guys did awesome. Thank you so much. Now, before we officially wrap up, we would actually love to hear from our audience if you have any thoughts on today's event. We've just dropped a link form in the YouTube comments. If you could take a moment to fill out that form, Your feedback really would help us improve and shape future sessions. So you're going to see a link pop up now, and we'd love for you to fill that in. We would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our partner, Women Impact Tech and Girl Develop It, for their support in co-promoting this event. To everyone who joined live, thank you so much for spending the time with us and being a part of this important conversation. We incredibly appreciate your support. We encourage you to follow Young Women in Code on all social media platforms at Young Women Code for updates and more information. Lastly, we want to express our gratitude to the entire Young Women Code team for their dedication and hard work in organizing this event. We encourage all attendees to share their insights and key takeaways from today's discussion on X and LinkedIn using the hashtags mentioned earlier at Young Women in Code, hashtag TTBHNY, or Tech Talks by Her NY. Stay tuned for future events, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you all, and have a wonderful rest of your day.